unfortunately. And so I'm gonna just give you the floor, give us a little intro, put us on some game. You seem to have a lot of wisdom that we may need to hear tonight.
You put me on the spot like that.
Good.
Well, I was born here in Tijuana, and I grew up in LA, and I was a regular kid, man. That's now living his life out here after being deported, after going through some things that you guys might or might not know. Um, but honestly, it's crazy that all of this is happening today because the reason that I decided to start a page was because I started seeing some pretty weird stuff, right? Like as far as the narrative being put out there to a lot of people. So like seeing this today unfold was kind of like an epiphany moment, like damn, like dude, you were right. Like that freaking narrative is going the wrong way. Like deportation is not easy. Deportation is hard. So that's the reason that I actually wanted to start like a TikTok channel or page. I don't know what it's called, but it's just refreshing to see that. I lost my train of thought, Annie. I'm sorry.
Don't be nervous. So we're talking about you wanting to make a page to kind of not fuck up the narrative, right? We kind of talked about this a little bit off camera, how some of this was tainting the experience, fucking up the narrative, and the realistic idea of what this should be versus some of it being a little bit glamorized, you know? So maybe take us down just a quick recap of your story. I know you mentioned you spent some time incarcerated, and maybe walk us through whatever you're comfortable sharing as far as your incarceration, your reason for your deportation, and what your startup was like in comparison maybe to what you've seen a little bit of today.
As far as my story, I think some people know it already, and the ones that don't, well, I guess that's something that we'll discuss in the future as far as fully. But yeah, I spent 12 years behind bars, due to something that happened when I was 19 years old. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it; it wasn't a good thing, you know. But I paid the consequences. I paid the very big consequences, and I was able to get another opportunity and start from scratch. If you think about it, when I got in prison, I was 19 years old, and I didn't see society again until I was 30. So I was 30, and coming to society, and also in a country where you don't even know nothing about like how to get an ID, how to do anything. Like what was an RFC or a CUR? Like to me, it was like what is that? So it was tough, like getting accustomed to that. But I saw that hustle gets you far here in TJ. Like I saw that from the start, and I didn't do it through a call center. I actually pursued doing English teaching. So I started doing English teaching to little kids in China, and I went about it that way, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and when COVID happened, the Chinese government actually shut that down. They shut it down, and I came back into call centers. I came into doing debt resolution, and things kind of took off from there. And now I'm in a position where I'm able to train trainers to train agents, to be able to help people get out of debt. Right now the U.S. is dealing with a lot of debt. One out of what is it, 6 Americans right now are living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have $500 for an emergency fund. So there was a lot of reasons that I wanted to start a channel too. That was one of the main reasons too, to show that in the U.S. It's not what the American dream seems to a lot of people. In Mexico, it's super doable. I know a lot of people that I interact with on a daily basis that are living a life here that they could have never imagined living in the United States. And a lot of people don't know that. Like there was 275,000, give or take, people that got deported last year in 2024. And with everything going on right now, there's going to be more people that get deported. So I feel like the narrative, like it's a very dangerous thing to have in your hands. And when we're looking at it like it's a party and bro, just come and Puerto Vallarta and he got you, like when I saw that, it was like, bro, like people are just going to auto deport now. Like that was my first train of thought. So
Yeah.
I was like and then I don't know. There's just a lot of things that made me want to start a TikTok page. To talk about different things other than just feeling pity for one. Like it's not about that. Like here in Mexico, is people do better than people in the United States. I've seen it. I've seen it happen a lot. So I guess that was just the narrative that I kind of like wanted to push out there. You know.
Yeah. I think when I came across your story, that was one of the reasons why I was intrigued because one, you've had some time here. So right now we're seeing a lot of fresh stories, people just getting here or people wanting to deport. But I haven't seen, at least on TikTok that are local, um, as many success stories with longevity. For example, you've been here, I think longer than I have. And I think you have had maybe a similar journey where you probably have a better quality of life here than you would have had in the US, especially coming out of the prison system, because the system up there is just not set up for us to reintegrate.
There is no rehabilitation. Like that's one of the words that California uses, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. But really, you just get worse in there, to be honest. And you could either take it that way, or you could take it in a way where, like, man, is this really what I want? Is this really well? And you're at a pitch for it. Like, is that what I'm gonna do? So yeah, you got to do the right thing at some point in time. If not, you're just gonna sink. You
I
know.
think it's crazy to think how, so you were deported immediately from your release straight into Mexico. Probably no aftercare, no resources, no probation, no parole, just released, right? And you did well. You seem to have, I'm going to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that you didn't reoffend, right? You seem to have had a pretty, normal life after your deportation versus if you had been released in California, you would have been released onto parole. The chances of reoffending, a lot of us are in, it's a revolving door. The prison system keeps us coming back in. So it's interesting to see that people that are released in the US, right, into parole and all these resources continuously reoffend. And then you have a case like yours, and there's several like yours. I've met multiple people that are deported straight here, no resources, nothing, and they take off and they don't reoffend. There's no, and it's kind of ironic if you think about it, how much effort the US puts into supposedly reintegrating and parole and this and that, and we got to do halfway houses, and then you come and you release them into Mexico, and not everybody, obviously, not everybody has the same case, but there's many like that. For example, I had another person that I met with last year that I interviewed. His name was Victor. He did 28 years in prison for something he did when he was 16, and he was deported into a new world, not even doing technology, the internet, nothing, and shell shocked. And it took him a few years, but he got on his feet, and he now runs a center in Puerto Vallarta helping at-risk youth. And so it's interesting to see how people like you can do well here versus if you had been released into the United States, there's a high probability that you would have been in and out of prison.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Because like you said, you start fresh here in Mexico, and if you want to do bad, like you'll do bad. Like it's super easy to do that. But if you also want to change your life, like the opportunity is there. When I was in prison, I was 19. This was in 2007. We didn't have smartphones. Like technology wasn't. They didn't even have an iPhone yet, actually. So when I came out, it was a little bit of a shock to see like technology but me, I honestly saw it as a tool to kind of like learn more. I started seeing tutorials on things on YouTube. Like I used it as a tool for that, but I can see how it could be used in a very negative way too.
And that's where you learned your editing skills, right? You mentioned YouTube.
Yeah, I pay YouTube Premium.
Yeah, me and Carlos we're huge fans of your editing. Like your videos are it looks like professional editing to me. It kind of made me second guess my own content. I was like, damn, this is like a spot. Like he's had to have had another page at some point because your content your editing skills are just top tier.
Nah, they're not that top tier, but it's super easy. You could do it. I'll send you the videos. You can learn.
Yeah. You mentioned that you use CapCut, right?
Yeah, that's all. That's all it is. On the computer, though, right? On the phone, it gives you certain features, but on the laptop, it will give you like more leverage to edit.
Oh, you're editing on the laptop.
You're not editing on
Damn.
the laptop?
No, I vlog on the go, like all on my phone.
Nah, the
That's
phone is good.
crazy.
The phone is good though.
Yeah. Well, TikTok is really great for just kind of vlogging on the go. I do some YouTube videos that are longer, but I use Adobe Premiere Pro and they're a little bit more complicated. But for just little TikTok videos, the laptop, that's dedication. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I kind of like those things. I like technology. I like the latest updates on on the phone, on the computers, and I like looking into it. So it's just something I like doing on my free time. I don't have any friends. I don't go out. I just work. I come home. I go to Walmart. I go to Costco. I'm with my son. I'm with my wife, and that's all I do. And then my free time that I do have is like on my computers and
Yeah. What do
yeah.
you think your life would have been like if you hadn't been deported?
I think I still would have succeeded. Honestly, I'm not saying I've succeeded here in Mexico, but I think I'm doing all right, just based on everything. But I think if I would have went out in the United States, I would have done good. I would have done good. I think when I got out, I was in a mentality of like I don't want to be living this anymore. Like my sister and me and my dad were actually doing time at the same time, like at the same time in different prisons, spread out throughout the country. And that was hard for me. I was the first one that went in as a baby at 19. Like it's super crazy to tell you guys, like to even talk about this, because I really don't. But yeah, I went through that, and just seeing my mom struggle the way that she did, and then also see the way that she overcame all of this. To me, that was like really my motivator. Like before I got out, to say, what, bro, like you can't be a piece of. Can I
Yeah.
cuss? I'm not trying to get bad, right? I'm trying to be a piece of poo poo,
It's to
right?
kind of break your cycle, right? To break
Yeah,
that generational cycle of incarceration.
absolutely. And that was it for me. And now, like my son, I'm a certain way with him that I didn't get. So I'm all about breaking cycles. Like you asked me about, my life mission, and it's to break cycles, because the cycles that I come from are supposed to make you not even be here right now talking to me. Like they're supposed to be strung out on drugs, or in jail or committing crime. Like honestly, I'm super blunt about that, because like that's not my life anymore at all. Like at all, at all. Right? Like when I see a yellow light, like I'm stopping. Like when I see the yellow. So I'm in a position where like I'm super against that. So, but you can't decide where you come from. A lot of people will hold it against me, and that's cool. I'm cool with that. Like I accept it. I wear that on my back. But it's not something that's going to define me or make me feel a certain type of way because somebody sees me, or a certain type of way because of my past. But people do change. I do believe that. I do believe that 100%.
Yeah, I do think redemption is possible. I'm a huge advocate for that. It's never too late to turn shit around. My chat asked how old you are.
I'm gonna be 38 this year. I'm gonna be 38 years old.
What do you see yourself doing with TikTok? Like, what's your goal? When you mentioned like when you decided to make a page and your idea with kind of switching up the narrative, what do you have in mind for your content?
You want me to be honest with you?
Yeah.
So I recently got to 10,000 followers, and I started monetizing. Like I started getting I'm like, what is going on? So what I haven't even withdrawn it, but what I'm gonna do with that money is buy stuff and make content of me giving it away here at the border. Like there's like 275,000 deportees that got kicked out to the country last year, and today we were focused on, what I'm saying, on something that we're not even supposed to be paying attention to. And I want to reach a part of those 275,000 people with what TikTok can let me reach them with. And with my own resources too, 1,000%, I'm going to start doing that as well. Just because I know the kind of impact that can happen. It just takes one person to kind of light that spark, light that fire. Because there's a lot of people that didn't decide to go over there. I've met so many people here that they got taken over there when they were little, and they stood there, and now like they're dealing with life when in a way that maybe is not normal. You know what I mean? Like it's not normal. So I definitely want to use my platform to help here in the border in Tijuana, because it's there. Like there's so many videos I have in my gallery on my phone of just like the poverty as you drive just through the border, you
I
know.
think also you're in a prime location to do that. I love going to TJ for the border content because it's just so different being there, visualizing it. Even just being at the border to me is emotionally triggering and it's powerful. But I can only imagine how many more like the cases you see there, like it probably just looks different in real life than when we're seeing it on TikTok. And again, not to redirect or make this about anybody in particular, but you see the people that get there with nothing and that actually need that little bit of bridge to, from housing to this, that actually need the help is what I'm trying to say.
One
And
thousand percent. Like, you know, what's the biggest thing that I've taken away from, this relevance that I've gotten here on TikTok as of late is the fact that people will reach out asking for opportunities every single day. So I ask myself, like, who's really giving out those opportunities? There's a big hole in the system that's not being filled. Like, people are just getting kicked out to a country and like, hey, figure it out, bro. And a lot of people are coming to this country with trauma that they haven't resolved yet. They're coming with a mentality that they need to change, but they never got the help. They never got the help, or they never found the resources. So I feel like there's a hole missing waiting to get filled. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I think that that's something that is very possible. I've actually been talking to a colleague of mine that is actually an attorney, and he's been kind of like advising me on the steps needed, and it's not that hard to be able to help people out here and make it legit. So maybe that's in the future. I mean, I'm not talking about something that is here next year, but that's definitely in the future, like the end goal to be able to set something up to bring somebody from, I don't know, Oaxaca and in a mountain where maybe they ended up and they need to relocate to a city like Tijuana where the opportunities
yes,
are crazy for someone that speaks English, right? Like maybe you just we need to place people in the right places and, like something like that.
yeah. I think you hit it right on the nail on the head. That there, I think doing well here is all about strategy and where you place yourself. I think that's, I just kind of by luck landed here in PV. But one of the reasons why I stayed initially was just I found other English speakers that made me feel a little bit more comfortable trying to adapt without realizing it that I actually made probably one of the best decisions because there were opportunities here for me versus a small town. If I had gone back to where I'm from, probably not so much, which is kind of what I'm seeing with Olga's case where she has potential, but you're in that place, like the opportunities for people like us just
Where
aren't
does
there.
Olga live?
She's in Oaxaca in a
Oh,
tiny, yeah. So it's funny that you said Oaxaca because she's in Oaxaca. I don't know the name of her town, but she said it's just like a tiny town, population 500 type shit, and very rural experience where she does what
Olga
she
would be making 40 to 60,000 pesos a month in TJ easily with
minimum.
her English. Like no lie, and I'm not even trying to like hype it up. There's people on this live that actually know me, and they know I'm not lying. Like so that's what I'm talking about. Like from the direct messages, I always ask people like, where are you located? And I'm hoping there's someone near so they can come apply. But they always tell me that there's somewhere like deep in the south, and it's like, man, I wish I could help. But so there's got to be a type of scholarship offered to someone that really deserves it and that gets vetted more than anything to make sure we're giving the scholarship to the right
Yeah,
person.
yeah. We talked about vetting, but vetting the right people for these types of resources because I was so overwhelmed by the amount of people that reached out. Like I needing help, right? I can't help everybody individually, but I can only imagine being one of those cases where I really, really need some help, and then seeing this experience that I had with Miguel, and I'm partly responsible for it too. It was a learning experience for me. En competencia, que han de sentir to see just the constant, you know, flooding, and when there's these other cases that, man, with just a third of that would take off, you know?
There's other cases, but you know what though? I feel like we shouldn't even talk about the negative and just focus on the positive. Like you got reach. Like people know and you know that you have reach. So I'm pretty sure that this is definitely something that moving forward is going to help you grow as you're somebody that helps. So you're growing as your role in this world as what you're doing. So I think you just focus on the good that you did and the good that you're going to keep doing, and forget the past and bye bye, bro boy. I'm sorry, rich boy. Um, just leave it as is. That's it.
Yeah. I think this live came at the perfect time, ironically, because we've been trying to schedule this live since like last week, right? And everything just kind of unfolded, unfortunately, on the day of. But I think this is really refreshing energy for a lot of us to just kind of redirect. And you're right, focus on the positive and just kind of take
You did some dope things. Like you really did. Like me watching from afar was like, this is some dope stuff right here, but
there's potential, right? Like there's
there's super
potential here
potential. Super
for
potential.
something bigger than this. And I think it was like the opening, you know, door to kind of in this direction. For example, it connected me to a lot of people, you included, people in real life. Carlos, it kind of brought us together virtually in a way to start kind of engaging and let's do this and let's do here. And that's kind of how ideas are born. So there was a lot of positive things that came from it. And I think, like I said, there's a lot of potential for more, a lot.
Absolutely. I believe so. I believe so. Just focus on the positive, 1000%. I've been feeling bad that people have been asking questions and we've just been letting them slide.
Well, yeah, go ahead and take some questions on your end too. Feel free. Interrupt me.
They're already gone. Never mind.
Oh, well, I have a bunch of, I don't know how many people are over there, but there's like 1,000 over here. If you guys have questions that you want me to ask them, feel free to drop them in the chat about his story or somebody asked, did you meet your wife in TJ?
Yeah, my wife, I met her here. She's from here. She was born here. My wife she's a teacher. She's a Spanish teacher for a middle school. How did I meet my wife? I met my wife through my neighbors. She was actually my neighbor's niece that I was very close with since I was little, and that's a story I've never told. But yeah, that's how I met her. I met her through my neighbor, um, and at a party, and it convinced her to marry me.
Congrats. And you have one son, I think you mentioned, right?
Yeah, I have a one and only son, and he's 2.5 years old. He's about to be 3. Yeah.
Carlos asked, here's a question, Rafa, do you miss doing lives with me? No, Carlos, you get him suspended.
I do miss my boy Carlos. That's like a bromance we got going on.
Yeah, Carlos is a total, I love Carlos.
Yeah.
He's a big fan of you. We be fighting over your editing skills all the time.
Yeah, Roxy asked me if I wanted more babies. I do, but my wife doesn't. She's the one that. So hopefully you guys can convince her one
day. Kids are a lot out here. I feel like having kids out here is a different experience than up there. And honestly, if I had had kids down here, I don't think I would have had this many either. Like most people down here have like maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah. It's not like back in the day where our parents, right, where they had a lot of them.
Like if you really want to give your kids like a quality type of life education, like you 1 or 2 tops.
That's what my wife says, right? Like because life's so expensive here in TJ. Like things are expensive here in TJ. Like I'm not gonna lie about that. Like the rent, they charge it in dollars because we're so close to the border. So the economy really is American economy. Like everything's in dollars here. So it's like you're in San Diego. But yeah, my wife always talks about that the reason that she doesn't want to have another baby yet is because, my son's about to go to private school here coming up in August. So that's right. Like we take all of that into an account. So it is tough having 2 kids, especially in your case. Like that's why I always say, like, but you just make it happen. I don't know how.
You're in the trenches with colegiatura. Like just wait on it. It's rough, but yeah.
I'm just starting off with it.
Yeah, someone said, I'm in TJ, I only have 1, I could barely keep up with school. School is really what gets you out here because I feel like private school is the norm to, I've never put my kids in public school, but I've heard just stories that made me afraid of it. So I've always had my kids enrolled in private school and it's crazy. Like it's more expensive to put my kids in school than to put me through school as an adult and, and I'm guessing that. So it's rough.
Yeah, it is. It is. My wife is actually a teacher for a public school, a middle school. So the stories I've heard are like super crazy, which makes us like really want to put her in a private school here in Mexico.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then they teach him English too. So I want him to learn English. He's actually born in the United States. I wasn't able to be there. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, my wife has a tourist visa, and we paid for the labor over there. We paid for a private clinic, so don't start hating on me. My son lives over here. I pay
So
taxes
you
here.
missed out on his birth to give him U.S. citizenship.
I did. It was a sacrifice I had to make just so that he could have that.
That is, I respect that. That's hard. That's rough.
Yeah, it's all right. I saw it through FaceTime, super clear.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. I get it. I was pregnant with my youngest when I was going through my felony cases and out on bond. And actually, one of the big reasons why I didn't skip bond was I needed her to be born in the U.S. and to get her papers.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think about it now. Like now with the mentality that I have, like I would do something in the U.S. Like I would start a business, I would grow it, I would sell it, I'd start another one. And but I can't no more, right? Because I messed up when I was young, and it is what it is. But like I would love to give my son that opportunity if he wants it. Eventually, hopefully, I can start a business here, and he doesn't have to even look over there. But if the
Yeah.
opportunity is over there and he wants it when he grows up, like go, bro, you're a dual citizen. So me and my wife talked about that a lot, and it's not cheap either. Having a baby as a tourist over there in the U.S. is not cheap. So it was a big sacrifice we made.
Well, that's cool. Respect for that.
Yeah.
Someone asked if you've ever considered moving from TJ.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at least, not permanently at least. Because I have ties. I have ties here as far as family, and I love TJ. I've been to Los Cabos. I've been to Guadalajara, Michoacan. I've been to Sonora. I've been to a lot of places in Mexico. And the only places I've been where it's like I may move here is Los Cabos, but and I haven't been to Puerto Vallarta or anything like that. But I love TJ, and then I have my house here, so I'm stuck here for the next 15 years. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone asked if you miss living in the U.S.
If I miss what?
Living in the U.S.
I think I just miss my I miss my sister more than anything. I haven't My sister's not able to come over here, and we grew up like pretty close. So when I went in, she wasn't able to go see me because she didn't have her papers or anything. So I haven't seen her since like I was 19, literally. So I think I miss that more than anything. I feel like I always tell her like one day one of us is gonna pass, and like we're not gonna be able to go to each other's funeral. So I think like to me like that's the hardest part, like my sister. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I think for all of us, I know for me too, when people ask me, do you miss life in the US, it's the same thing. I miss my family. There's certain things that I miss, but I can't say that I miss life there in general or the quality of life or the type of life that I had there. But it's always just family ties.
yeah, yeah. But other than that, I don't miss anything else. There wasn't nothing. I mean, unless yeah, there are good things, but I think here in TJ, like life is good, and I think you make it where you make it,
It
Or,
is very Americanized. Like when I went to TJ, it definitely gave me San Diego vibes. It felt like California, for sure.
it is. We got nothing but American plates here. You go out in the street, 6 out of 10 plates are American. California more than anything,
Yep.
you
And
know.
it's crazy out there. I don't think I could drive a TJ. That like even the Uber drivers out there were stressing me out.
Yeah.
One time we took an Uber and I had to close my eyes the entire ride.
Well, you got to think about it. When people need to go like renew their license or get their license, they just pay for it and they just get it from some dude in the back. You know what I mean? And like go on. So,
Makes sense.
so think about it. What kind of culture driving do you think you have when nobody like literally takes a
I
driving
think
test?
that's Mexico in general. I mean, we just did the same shit. Miguel took no test. We went in there, paid the hookup, supposedly, but
Yeah.
nobody really does driving tests. There's no driving school requirements. So then we wonder why it's fucking Mario Karts
Yeah,
everywhere we go.
no. And then you try to do a stop right here, and people will get mad at you and like honk at you, like, bro, I'm doing my stop, but people don't want you to do a stop, so you get used to that culture. Next thing you know, you running over a bump, you know what I mean, and not even worried about it. But yeah, no, the culture right here driving is crazy. I used to have a motorcycle a while back ago, and I had to let it go because of that, because it's like super
Oh
crazy.
yeah, it's dangerous. I would never ride a motorcycle out here. People be dying every day on motorcycles on TV.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy. I scared myself out of that motorcycle, like just from seeing things happening here in TJ with motorcycle riders.
I have a question. How does your wife feel about you deciding to create content? and share your story and put it out there.
She doesn't even know what I say. She doesn't know English. She always asks me, like, what are you saying?
Shady.
I usually tell her I'm teaching people English. No, I'm kidding. Because I used to be an English teacher.
He said I'm teaching the Chinese kids again.
Back at it.
Shady. So wait, she doesn't know you're out here telling your deportation story and shit?
Yeah, she does.
Oh,
She
okay.
does. She does. She supports it. She supports it. She just doesn't know what's going on.
Oh, she doesn't get to take part in the TikTok. Have you considered making content in Spanish?
I
Make
have.
make a Spanish channel. Do both. Look, here. I'm gonna put you on. You're gonna make a backup page, nothing but Spanish, and you're gonna have 2 pages and monetize both of them.
You think it'll work?
Yes, it works. Have you not seen my 6 pages I have?
You got one for just stepping out the door.
It is not just for subbing at the door. That's the main account. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay.
That was my come with me to school. But yeah, it works. Okay. Make a backup, make Spanish content, and then the wife can join. Matter of fact, hard launch the wife on the Spanish channel, and that shit will take off like this. We're trying to get Carlos to get his wife to do it too.
Yeah, we should do like a group for them, huh?
Yeah. Deportation story, wife edition. You know how they do prison wives? Deportation wives. See?
Oh, that's a reality
good
show right
one.
there. MTV enter the chat. No, I'm kidding. That's an MTV show right there, right?
MTV? Oh, yeah. See, we could actually get this on a reality show. You know what would be super cool? To combine like different deportation stories into like a reality show. Especially right now, with everything going on, that would be super dope. You know how they did Teen Mom, but like not Teen Mom, but like Deportation Mom type shit? Like,
Yeah. I don't think MTV's popping like that with reality TV shows. So I
no.
don't think
It's Netflix now. We'd have to end up
yeah,
on
it's
that.
Netflix.
Real Housewives of Deportees. Yeah, some shit like that.
You gotta be careful though. That'd be some crazy stories right there.
Casa de los Deportados, somebody said. Yeah, following them around because yeah, to give people like a realistic view of like what life is really after deportation.
Yeah, it ain't. Look, I'll tell you one thing. It ain't mojitos and sand between your toes, guys. It's not that. Most
Yeah.
people come out here and they struggle, man. Like they don't know, especially the people that don't know anybody. It's hard for them. That got to start from literally the street. Like I think those people are the people that need the help, to be honest. But there's just nothing that really centers on that. It's like a forgotten group.
It's almost also kind of taboo. There's some shame to it too. I know that when I first got here, um, I was probably a little bit different. When people would ask me, "So what brings you to PV?" I would be like, "I got deported off the bat," right? And people would kind of be like, "Oh," but there was also a lot of people that were like, "Oh my gosh, me too," and then we would start sharing stories, and but there was a lot of shame to that topic, like deportation, especially culturally, locally here, like. It's not something that Mexicans are very accepting of, like the real Mexicans.
That's a whole nother topic. Like you're right about that. Like you are right about that. Like there's people that feel a certain kind of way, because you came back and they feel like you got shunned from another country, which we kind of.
And it's not even because we came back by choice, which also kind of makes it worse, adding insult to their injury that you're not even here because you want to be here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of discrimination between.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? Because it be your own people sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think it's the way you carry yourself too. I think I used to see that at the beginning. Now not as much. But I think I used to see that more in the beginning. Yeah.
And I think in TJ, where there's a large amount, like border towns in general have tons and tons and tons of people like us. So I think maybe, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe more culturally acceptable there because there's a lot of us and it's a very Americanized type of culture. But once you get into the South and you get a little bit farther down here into the small towns, the tattoos, there's definitely some tensions in my experience.
Do you guys have a lot of call centers in PV?
I wouldn't say a ton, but we do have a handful of them. US based companies that come and they outsource timeshare type shit, Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a ton because TV is not very big. There's not a lot to it. It's a city, but it's small in my opinion. Nothing compared to TJ or Guadalajara. So there's a handful of them, but you can go through them pretty quickly. Like if you're that type of person that comes and has a high turnover rate, like you'll go through the call centers quick. There's not a lot to it.
Okay, okay. But there are things to do though, right? To support yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when I got here, I found my first job. Not well, I worked for a call center for a couple of days, but then I stumbled upon U.S. based companies that actually paid in dollars, and I thought like I had hit the gold mine, and it was like the luckiest thing in the world. And I worked there for 3 years. But then I saw that it was actually kind of a thing where a lot of U.S. based companies do that. They come, they outsource their labor, and the ones that I've seen here, a lot of them, well, at least back in the day, they were like home office type jobs where they would come and they set you up digitally at your house, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
Carlos,
that's very
Carlos,
common now, actually.
yeah. Carlos, what call center did you work at? He mentioned he did some call center work when he got here for a little bit. I think that's kind of the first thing most of us head into is call center because that's the one thing you can do with your English here. Call center or in TV is you're out in the hotels, but
The hotels, huh?
that's a
That's
rough.
what I used to think I was gonna do. Actually, I remember I used to practice. I used to be like, hey, I hope you had a good right. Like I used to think I was gonna have to do customer service at a hotel. Like I had no idea that I was gonna stumble into what I do now. But like literally, that's what I used to think. I'm like, man, I'm gonna work at a hotel, at a restaurant. So yeah,
Do you feel this is a good one? Do you feel that you have healed from the trauma of the deportation process?
absolutely, absolutely. I think I have. When I first came out here, I had the opportunity to go back to the United States illegally. Like I really did. Like literally, it would. But I didn't want to. Like I didn't want to be hiding from the law. I didn't want to, see a cop car and get nervous because I didn't want to not be able to have my license or my bank account. Like I didn't want that. So I
Yeah,
was like,
better.
good. Yeah, I'm gonna make it happen here. And in TJ at least, I don't know about in other cities, but in TJ, if you know English and you got hustle, like you could make more money than career level people, like 1,000%. And it could not just in one place, it's different places. You just gotta have that hustle because sales right here, is what really makes you money. So I take advantage of that, and now luckily I'm able to train people that train the other people that are on the phones. So it's pretty cool.
I think the determining factor in like being successful out here is you got to have somewhat of a drive. Like the opportunities are here, but you really have to look for them. Like it's not like in the US we can go and apply for a job online. Like they're here, but they're almost kind of like hidden gems here and there where you have to be a self-starter, you have to be out there moving, connecting, looking, searching. It's not like I come across a lot of people that are like with the content that I make about US based jobs and stuff like, hey, so what companies? Hey kids, so can you tell me where to apply? Like you gotta get out there and find it yourself type shit. Like dig for it. And it's there, but there's also a lot of competition out here. There's a lot of people looking for work. There's not as much opportunity, but I feel like there is a ton. You just kinda have to you have to move.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody's asking, what do we do for a living? I myself, I do debt resolution. I help people get out of debt. Um, I don't know what the Annie does. Annie does a lot of things.
I do content full time. I do virtual assisting. I'm in the process of onboarding for the University of Illinois as part of a really cool project to help, deported people, but I haven't solidified that yet. And then honestly, yeah, just a little bit of everything from my platforms, from selling shit to content to lives to YouTube to this to that. So I just sum it up with I have an online business that I created for my platforms.
What was it hard for you, Annie, to say, you know what, I'm going to do it by myself? Because that's got to be tough. Because technically, you're self-employed, like
It
technically.
was scary because I remember when I took the leap, like I said, PV's small. So I knew that I didn't have, I had gotten fired from two places for social media, two good US dollar paying places. And so I realized like if I do this and it doesn't work and I put myself out there, I'm going to be unemployable here locally. And so it was a scare. It was honestly probably the biggest risk I've ever taken, especially because at the time I already had my kids and the weight of a single provider. And if this doesn't work, I may have to send my kids back. I don't know. There was a lot of uncertainty, but I just kind of said, fuck it, YOLO. And it took off. It took off, and it was almost like a decision I made. Like, do I keep working for someone else's dream or do I work for mine type shit? And at the time, my big drive behind it was I it sounds really silly, but I thought like I need to make a difference. Like back then there wasn't a lot of deportation stories. I feel like I was one of the first to really put it out there boldly. Like I got deported because I committed felony fraud, I had a green card, and people were really shocked. Like you had a green card, people didn't even know that people with papers can get deported. So
That's me.
you had a green card too?
Yeah, I was in the U.S. Navy.
Oh, you know what? We need to talk about this. Hold that thought. So a lot of people were like, "Oh, we didn't. How did you go?" So I felt like in my moment, like I have a mission. Like I have to do this for my. It sounds really cheesy now, but that was really what pushed me to take that risk. That I felt like I had some type of purpose, and at the time, I think I had like 100,000 followers, and I thought I was like big shit. Like I got to do this, and so I jumped into it, and it worked. And I had no idea that it would work, that it would take off, and I would reach the amount of people that I reached, the amount of opportunities that I've received from this, from personal opportunities to networking to friendships to, I mean, it's been crazy. It changed my life and the quality of life that I was able to also give to my children.
You're one in a million, though, right? Like if like let's say 10 girls would have done the same thing you did at the same time you did it, like not all 10 would have succeeded, right? It happens to certain people that have like a certain star, right? So I think you're one of
It
them.
happens to people that have the drive for it. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of risk, it's a lot of consistency, it's hard work. I know we think like, oh, it's just TikTok, it's just this, but the amount of sweat, blood, and tears that go into this, and then the judgment, like you have to be mentally prepared for the waves of shit that this comes with. So I would say it happens to the people that are mentally strong and able to build it. The opportunities are for a lot of people. You could do it. There's a lot of people that have the potential, but it takes a lot to the risk particularly. And we kind of talked about this when you were like, I never thought about this about my job. And at the end of the day, like this is a risk that you take by putting yourself out there.
Yeah, you do 1,000%, 1,000%. But God knows. So
So take us back to you served in the Navy?
yeah, I actually
Sorry.
served in the Navy when I was 17. Thank you for
Okay.
that. When I was 17, I had my mom sign off on me because I was a minor, and I went and I trained in Illinois. Then after that, I left to Florida. I was able to do a deployment, and then after that, I got into some trouble when I went back home on leave, and yeah, that's another story too. I think when I joined the Navy, I was like so like misguided. I was an ignorant little kid that didn't really know nothing about much, and so that opportunity, I didn't take advantage of it the way that I should have. Since I was little, I always try to do good. Like I always remember that. Like, I always try to do things right, but like something or a situation would always pull me back in, and I would end up messing up. And the same thing happened when I went to the Navy. Like I try to get out of LA. I'm like I'm going to the other side of the country. I was in Virginia and in Florida, and when I was there, like everything was good. And then I went back to LA and dealing with the acquaintances that I used to deal with. Situations happened, and it just got bad. But
So
yeah,
you
that's another
were
story.
in active military duty when you committed the crime that got you deported?
No, no, I wasn't active military duty by then. I had been other than honorably discharged. So the CO, the commanding officer, where I was stationed at, like, he took a big liking to me, a big liking to me, because I was so young and he knew my story, like coming up. He knew my mom's story, like he knew a lot. So he said, "Hey, I need you to not get discharged dishonorably. I need you to get discharged in a way where you can come back to the military." But I had gotten caught doing something that I shouldn't have done. while I was in the Navy. So this CO that I'm talking about, he arranged it to where I didn't do any time for it in the military. Like they just other than honorably discharged due to the incapacity to cope with military life. And I went back to LA. Where was I going to go? I went back to LA. I tried to do good there, and I got caught in some situations again, and that's what ended up me, catching 12 years. And yeah, that's basically what happened in a nutshell, without being too detailed.
Do you ever think about, how there's certain decisions we make in life that completely alter the course of our life,
Living proof of that.
right? And how different life would have been with just one different decision from being in the military to, that crossroad that you came across and the path that we chose that landed us here. But also, do you ever think about like what could have been?
I do it all the time. I did it for 12 years straight, literally, every night.
Damn, yeah.
But at some point, you're either gonna succumb that or you got to do something. Like you can't stay stuck with those thoughts. Like going back to deportation, a lot of people, get deported and say I'm depressed, I miss my family, and or whatever the case is. Like you at some point you got to drop it, man. Your past, what trauma that you dealt with in the past. I don't care what it is, man. Whatever it is holding you back from doing what you got to do. From being somebody in life, and you got to drop it at some point. You can't hold it on forever. And I feel like I took on that mentality that like my past was like effed up. As far as like the examples and the role models that I saw, just the whole get down. And I didn't want to let that define me. Like since I was young, like I didn't want that. But I just was a young kid that didn't know where to grab on from. So yeah, man, the what ifs is definitely something that I've always thought about, but not anymore. Honestly, just because I know that now things are different. I'm doing things the way that are supposed to be done. I'm handling my business as a man with my family, with my son. Doing things that I never had. So I'm good with that. I'm good with my past, but I'm focused on my future for sure.
What was your experience like serving 12 years? One, right, the shock of being back in the society, but in a country that would probably felt foreign to you. What was that like?
It was tough. It was tough.
Did you even know like technology must have advanced so much over the years too?
That's what I was going to talk about. Like the first phone that I had, it was like this Android phone, and like to me it was like, damn, you could do this, like you can do that. It was just like a little kid.
Then you went in. You also had like the brick ones, huh? The big old boxes, or
where you at?
Or the not the walkie-talkie.
Yeah, where you at?
Damn. The flip phones. Not even a Nokia. He had that BlackBerry.
I used the BlackBerry. It was the Motorola's. Remember the i730s? I don't know if anybody in the chat remember the i930s, the Motorola's.
The pager. The pager.
The Nokia with the snake game. You guys remember that one?
Tetris. Damn. Someone said, what year was he deported, Gandalf? No, 2017. Wasn't that long ago. But what year did you go into prison?
2007.
Damn, I was 17. Yeah, back then, it was barely the little slider QWERTY keyboard phone.
Look, you know which one was popping back then? It was that Razor Motorola. Remember that thin one?
Yes, the Razor. All the girls had it. Yes. And they probably still have like the minutes at night, huh? After 3 minutes after.
Don't call me before 7 because I ain't answering.
Damn. Imagine going into that and then coming out to 2017. Let's see. That was probably the beginning, I think, Facebook era. iPhones were a thing, right?
Yeah, iPhones were a thing already.
Carla says where you record your voicemail from the music on TV. Yes. The ringback tones.
Hey, y'all. I'm not available right now, but go ahead and leave a message after the beep. And then put it on the speaker.
The MySpace era, yes. Yeah, singular wireless, the cricket. Oh my gosh, blast from the past. That's crazy.
Yeah, blast from the past, exactly.
Okay, so sorry, I cut you off. So what, I'm sorry, what was it like to go from that and then come out to new country, new technology, new everything?
I was just happy, to be honest with you. I was just happy. I remember like the first day that I was able to. I tried to go look for a job and I ran into a wall. They said you need paperwork, so I had to go get that. So it took like a month for me to get my paperwork, ready for me to start working. But but yeah, no, I loved it, man. Since I got out, I didn't have
Just
like
happy to be here.
yeah, like I was
Right.
happy to be here. Like I was smiling all the time. Like I used to sit and look at my food before I bit it. Like I just went through that phase where it was like I love life. Like I'm good,
Yeah.
and I just took it on like that.
What was mental health for you during that time? Did you have a hard time like adjusting and coping in that first year?
The first year, nah, I mean, there was no mental health or depression or anything like that. None of that. I think also too, I'm gonna be honest, what helped a lot too is that my mom used to be here a lot with my nieces, like every weekend when I first got out. She has a house here in TJ, but she lives in LA, and she comes a lot. Like she comes a lot over here, so I have that connection, right, where I wasn't like completely alone. Like Christmases, she comes over here, so I'm still pretty close with my mom actually. So I think that has helped a lot. And I know a lot of people come out here and like they have no contact with like nobody, like no family members. So yeah, I think I was very blessed, that I was able to get out and have that contact with my mom.
Definitely. I always feel really lucky in that aspect too because all my family members are citizens, so they can come and visit, and I see them at least once a year, right? And I meet a lot of people that haven't seen their family members in 15 plus years because they're undocumented and there's just no way to come down, So I think we're some of the lucky ones that can still have some type of access to family members.
Yeah, because it is tough. Like I know friends that have told me their stories of when they got deported, and it's like, like it's super tough. And I'm like, wow, I can't imagine going through that. Like that must have been hard.
Yeah.
So not all stories are like good and easy, and the landing pad is a soft one. Some people, they have to go through it, sleep in the streets, and just crawl their. I know people that are very successful now that have made a lot of money here and that are in a good position in their life, but that started off like that, like literally from zero. So yeah,
Yeah, true, true. Do you guys have any other questions for him? Let's see. So Grace said, "How old were you when you were taken to the U.S.?"
I was like 4 years old when I went to the U.S.
Okay. I think you have an old coworker on here. Someone said I used to work with Rafa.
Where
His name is Rick. Rick's down. Have you had people like from real life find your TikTok and like?
Yeah, a couple people have. They're pretty supportive. I mean, I try to keep it as professional and PG rated, and I try to. So because I know that
So you get on the
coworkers.
live with Carlos and get suspended, right?
Yeah, no, it's because I was answering some questions and people asked a question about something that I'm not even going to mention it. And then I just gave my opinion on it, and next thing you know, it just went blank. And it just went blank, and I was like, oh man. But it wasn't even that bad, to be honest. It wasn't even that bad, right? Like I'm not gonna sit here and hype it up and be like, yeah, I was saying some crazy stuff. Like I didn't even say nothing bad. Like it was just
Yeah,
some
TikTok.
random.
TikTok is super sensitive lately, for sure. So be careful. Tread lightly on lives.
Yeah. Oh no, I know now. Like I know now. I'm good. TikTok. I don't want no beef. Like none of that.
Yeah. Um, Rick said you were the best boss. So it looks like somebody that was.
Oh, Rick. Yeah, I know Rick. That's my boy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marina says, when are you teaching your wife English so she can join everybody?
She does want to learn English. She knows a little bit, but not enough to help like hold a conversation.
Yeah. But how do you teach English to the Chinese and you haven't taught your wife English, Rafa? You hella slacking.
Yeah, I was getting paid by the Chinese though.
Damn. Yeah, you need to put her onto some English.
Yeah, no, I try to, and she does tell me too. Like the biggest thing with her is that sometimes I don't speak to my son in English, right? Like when I talk to him, I'll talk to him in Spanish because at work that's all I do, just speak English, and it's like well, I want to come home and speak Spanish. You know what I mean?
Is
So
that hard? Because like to have your whole life in English at work, on platforms, and then you come home to all Spanish? Like, how does that toggle back and forth in your brain?
it just happens. It's happened since I was little. My mom doesn't speak English either. My dad doesn't speak English.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I'm like the first generation that knows English. You know?
Well, you got to teach your son English.
Yeah, no, no, no. I'm gonna teach him for sure. For sure, he's on my list.
He's on my list after the Chinese kids.
Yeah, he's on my list. He's on the waiting list.
What is something you want to share to the